In the heart of Roxborough National Park in Colorado lies Tesser Peak, a haven of solitude and serenity. This mountain hideaway is where Andy Peterson, a forester by profession, found his deepest sense of calm on his off days. The path to the peak, unblemished by modern shortcuts like mountain biking, was a journey he cherished, a journey that confronted him with raw, undistilled nature. One day, nestled near the peak, he discovered signs of a puma. This encounter was both a thrill and a whisper of alarm, reminding him how closely intertwined he was with the primal world around him. April 30th, 1998, dawned with a sky painted in the most stunning shades of blue. The mercury soared over 75 Fahrenheit, hinting at a day that was poised to be extraordinary. The path leading to Tesser Peak's crown was all Andy's to conquer that day. On his climb, he met 4 mountaineers descending to the foothills, their hellos echoing in the mountain air. Then, a sudden rush of adrenaline coursed through Andy, sparking an indomitable urge to sprint to the summit. From atop Tesser Peak, the world unfurled in a breathtaking panorama. The cityscape of Denver twinkled in the distance, a good 30 kilometers to the north. Yet it was the vista stretching out to the northwest that captured Andy's heart. The sprawling expanse of Pike National Park and the vertigo-inducing cliffs standing tall. That day, as Andy stood victorious atop the highest precipice, a cool breeze brushed against his face, the grandeur of the horizon stretching out before him. A sense of peace and awe washed over him, a feeling he would carry within him forever. As Andy began his descent, he opted for a more languid pace to savor the essence of spring in full bloom around him. After a brief respite and a light lunch, he took his last sip of water, secured the basket around his waist, and embarked on his journey towards the foothills. En route, a cloud of wildflowers flourishing in hues of purple on the mountain slope caught his eye. Kneeling to inspect this spectacle closer, an unsettling feeling prickled his senses. The soft rustle of the tree branches overhead stirred with an ominous whisper. A turn of his head, and there it was, a puma, lounging lazily beneath a pine tree, gnawing on what appeared to be a stick or bone. Weeks earlier, the discovery of its tracks had filled Andy with excitement. But now the reality of a living, breathing puma, a mere 5 meters away, coursed fear through his veins. A fear so potent, it was a stranger to him until then. His knees buckled under the dread, but he managed to take several silent steps back. Reaching into his backpack, Andy pulled out his knife. A silent companion in uncertain times. His instinct screamed at him to flee from the creature. A rapid slideshow of escape scenarios flitted through his mind. Climb back up and signal for help with stones, bolt past the puma, or perhaps scream. Or should he bide his time, hoping for other hikers to stumble upon them? As his mind raced with strategies, his body braced itself for a potential confrontation. He glanced at the knife in his hand. The 5-centimeter blade looked pitifully inadequate against the robust beast. He flipped open the larger blade on the handle's other side, then tugged out the screwdriver from the center, fashioning a makeshift weapon with multiple sharp ends. But who was he kidding? The flimsy edges bent easily, barely posing a threat. Only the largest blade seemed capable of inflicting any harm. With a shaky hand, he tried to secure the blade as tightly as possible. Engrossed in his tactical brainstorming, Andy stole a glance at the tree sheltering the puma. Distracted, the knife clamped shut with an echo that punctuated the silence. His eyes, wide with panic, darted around to locate the puma. She was no longer there. Peering through the underbrush down the slope, he spotted her. The puma was on the move, her predatory eyes locked onto him. Andy recoiled as the foliage nearly concealed her approach. Before he could muster a response, the puma was before him, her glowing eyes studying him intently. Weighing a mere 60 kilograms, Andy was painfully aware of his vulnerability. He spotted a slight incline nearby and attempted to edge towards it, retreating from the beast. A roar erupted from the puma, her shiny, formidable teeth on full display, before she pounced, sinking her claws into Andy's chest. They tumbled together, a whirlwind of fur, claws, and blood. His blood. Gathering his wits, he managed to rise. only to be met with another onslaught from the Puma. Andy evaded her and began scrambling towards the base of the slope. The Puma halted abruptly, and Andy quickly assumed a defensive stance. He swung his mountain backpack with all his might and then lunged, stabbing at her face with his knife. It seemed to have little effect. Andy attempted to kick her away and maintain a safe distance, but the Puma held her ground, almost as if toying with him. His path was abruptly cut short by a series of rocky steps, his back hitting the ground as he stumbled. The Puma wasted no time in launching herself at him. In the blink of an eye, they were rolling through the underbrush once more. A searing pain shot through Andy's left eye and forehead as her tooth found its mark. Loosening her grip momentarily, she clamped down again, her jaw force intensifying. Blood flowed freely down his face. But Andy was far from defeated. With renewed determination, he struck his knife into the Puma's neck. Once, twice, 3 times. Yet his efforts seemed futile. There was no sign of her blood anywhere. The Puma's paw connected with his face, its claws rending the skin beneath his eye. Her other paw ensnared his neck, sinking into his throat. The pain should have been blinding, yet it was oddly absent, replaced by the warm flow of his blood. Casting a look at his knife, Andy noticed the blade had folded over his index finger. With a swift flick of his right hand, he reopened it. His hand was dangerously close to the Puma's eye, a chance he seized, driving his thumb into her eye socket. With his left hand, he plunged the knife into the back of her head. A piercing scream erupted from the Puma as she recoiled. Somehow Andy found his footing, staggering as he tried to summon his remaining strength. The Puma stood 3 meters away, her gaze filled with confusion. It was now or never. He needed to get down the mountain. With a surge of adrenaline, he pivoted and took off. Running as though chased by the Reaper himself, Andy ran, choking on his own blood. 5 kilometers separated him from the base, his situation teetering on the brink of despair. Midway through his frenzied sprint, he risked a glance over his shoulder, his heart dropping at the sight of the Puma in pursuit. He pushed his legs to their limits, his hope dwindling with every step. He was a marked man, his predator returning to claim him, and he was powerless to prevent it. Steeling himself for the inevitable, he turned again, bracing for the sight of his tormentor. But where the Puma had been a heartbeat ago, there was nothing but the dappled shadows of trees on a sunlit, empty path. The Puma was gone. He'd never considered the existence of a higher power before, but in that moment, he felt a divine presence. Buoyed by this turn of events, Andy pressed on. As he neared the base, the trailhead to Tesser Peak, he spotted a group of hikers. "Call 911, he roared, each word a battle for breath. "Please, help me." His left hand clutched the blood and fur-stained knife, while his face bore the brutal testament of his encounter. A man and a woman tried in vain to coax him into sitting down. Yet each time he tried, fear would jolt him back onto his feet, sending him sprinting once again. Gasping for air, he didn't halt until he collided with the group of hikers he had passed 45 minutes earlier near the peak. Finally, he stopped. After a frenzied dash spanning over 4 kilometers, he was utterly spent. Through the blood-blurred vision, he could make out the outline of a female hiker. "Puma," he croaked, struggling with the words. "Call 911. With that, she bolted towards the rescue center. The group of hikers ushered him to the center, where he slipped into unconsciousness. Everyone rallied to make him feel safe and shielded. But it wasn't until the wailing sirens of an ambulance reached his ears that he understood his nightmare was finally drawing to a close. Andy Peterson came perilously close to losing his left eye in that harrowing encounter with the relentless Puma. The skilled medical team at the Swedish Medical Center in Englewood managed to stitch together the deep lacerations and injuries on his face, waist, shoulders, right leg, and left arm, employing over 100 sutures, 70 of those dedicated to his head alone. Meanwhile, the Colorado Rescue Service spent 5 days scouring the area for the elusive Puma, but the beast remained undetected. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to check out the other great content on our channel. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to bring you more. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.